Hello everyone, and welcome to This Nintendo Life, episode 294. My name is NBZ, and we're here at a historic occasion, Bally. It's the final time. It's time to light the funeral pyres. Yeah, of course, Easter. We're lighting the funeral pyres, just standing there by the cross, eating our chocolate. But we're all here to celebrate the life and to mourn the death of Skype. R.I.P. to Skype. This will be the final podcast that we ever record using Skype. Not by our own choice, but by Microsoft's. Thank you, Microsoft, for doing this bullshit to us. Just for taking away a program that, just works, just functions like it should, does what we need it to, is reliable.
It's all going to go downhill from here. There's going to be audio issues and connectivity issues, and I can guarantee you, no matter what platform we choose next, it will not last as long as this platform has lasted us. There's just no way.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's been over 10 years of just using Skype. Obviously, used Skype a lot longer before that as well. We used to just chat through Skype as our main communication method. I think prior to that was MSN Messenger.
It's still within Microsoft, I guess, yeah?
I guess so,
Skype
yeah.
Is
still
the natural evolution of Messenger.
Right, yeah. I mean, you were never an internet sicko enough to use Ventrilo like I did with all the people back in the day. So I guess the only other audio thing that you would have done on the internet prior to Skype would be Nintendo DS voice chat,
of course.
Most likely, or We Speak, of course, when we played Animal Crossing. Which, hey, look, we're now thinking of a world where basically We Speak is back as a core feature of the Switch 2.
We tried We Speak when it came out with Animal Crossing, and it was a horrible experience.
You know what we should do? Okay, we should both get our Wiis and mod them so that we can use them with the internet stuff that fans have set up, right? Modded fan Wii internet, and then we need to record a podcast using We Speak. That's what we should be doing.
It's not fair on the listeners.
No, it's definitely not. But actually, here's another angle we could take. We could use the Nintendo Switch online app, soon to be called the Nintendo Switch app, which has voice chat built into it, obviously. So we could use that to record. There's lots of options. Nintendo, they have a history of giving us ways to chat to each other through our consoles. There's ways that we can make this work for a podcast. I believe in it. So, join us on our tour of the next however many episodes as we try and find a new home and try and use different methods for recording and. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure
we'll get there.
We'll get there in the end. But bear with us as these teething pains happen. But just enjoy this. We didn't even make it to 300 episodes before they killed Skype Valley. They could have done it. They could have just waited for us for a nice round number. But no, they kill us right at the pass at episode 294. So thank you to Skype. We'll see what happens after this. But Bally, we have many things to talk about on this episode of the podcast. Would you like to tell people what those are going to be?
For the first segment, we are going to talk a little bit about the Mario Kart World Direct that took place. We're also going to talk about a game that we've both been playing in the first segment. And then for the second segment, we are going to get back to some listener emails.
Yes, indeed. Some fun stuff to go through. So we will do that. But let's get into it. So Nintendo decided, they did their Switch Direct and they were like, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to have a deeper dive, a longer direct dedicated just to Mario Kart World. Can you believe it? Launch title for the Switch 2. There's so much more to say about it. There's just so many things that they have to relay to us about.
And there's 15 minutes.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, it's 15 minutes long. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. They can condense it, right? They've had a lot of information, but they can be really condensed about this and just really get to the meat of it, the really important stuff.
One more point. Bill Trinan also talked to some journalists who asked, they asked something specific about and will there be more to the open world, and will there be this, and will there be that? And Bill Trinan
I'm trying to justify the $80 price point as well, right?
And Bill Trinan said, basically, just you wait until the Mario Kart World Direct or something, or along those lines. Basically hyping it up, suggesting there's going to be loads of modes. We're going to be giving you so much more detail on the modes you already know about, and stay pumped, stay hyped. It's coming. Here we go.
Yeah. And also, we should point out, last time we talked about the treehouse, and we were like, oh, that guy, he was like, maybe you want to watch that Mario Kart World to find out what's going on and all this free roaming open world stuff. And Bally, so you messaged me and you were like, I'm going to be driving during this. No spoilers. Don't text me anything about Mario Kart World. And I think it says a lot that I didn't even think to message you about it and have not asked you about it since, and neither of us exchanged any messages about this direct whatsoever, because I think this might be one of the most disappointing, de-hyping, like unnecessary presentations that Nintendo has ever given, basically regurgitating a ton of information that had already been out there from
like 90%.
Yeah, 90% of stuff that we already knew about. And look, okay, so from Nintendo's perspective, I understand. They are coming from the viewpoint of, okay, we have to cater to people who only watched the Nintendo Direct and who only saw that one trailer and therefore didn't know about knockout mode because they didn't watch the Treehouse or follow up with journalists who were talking about all the things that they saw at the event, or talking about what was going on with the Grand Prix and how that functioned, all that sort of stuff. So I do understand it. At the same time, like, all this information was out there. Like, if you looked, you could find it, and they had already told us about it, and they are just packaging it in this more kind of like Nintendo Direct format to tell us things that we already know. And there was a bit of new information in here.
I'm skeptical of like the audience that would be in tune for the launch trailer and be aware of Mario Kart World. But then wouldn't follow up on any other information, but then would also check back in with the direct. I'm skeptical how large that audience is. I feel like you're either all in or all out, you know?
Yeah, because if you're like a casual person who's just watching trailers on YouTube for Mario Kart, you don't know that a Mario Kart Direct is coming, and you're certainly not going to be there at a live stream to watch it, you know? Like, so it's a weird choice, because yes, Directs are kind of aimed at the hardcore audience, but I still think Nintendo has this thing of like, well, we have to make sure people understand, you know, we have to make sure people are getting communicated all the information and they need to know these things. And sadly, I think they just made a big mistake here, especially like you were saying with Bill Trinan being like, oh, just wait and see what we have to say, because frankly, like, there was nothing of interest here, and I'll be honest, this has dampened my hype for Mario Kart World. Like, it has made me less excited for it, which I think as a piece of marketing is just a complete failure on every front. So that really sucks. So I guess the couple of things that we knew, that we got told here that we didn't know before, there will be an ability to play just 3 races in a row or 4 races in a row with the 3 laps, but that will be a versus mode thing, which means every time you do Grand Prix, you have to do the Grand Prix version, which is riding all the way to the other tracks. Which, to be honest, means I'll probably play through Grand Prix once and never touch it again, because that sounds far less interesting to me as a concept. And when it comes to online stuff, I mean, more than likely we'll just do the regular 3 laps of a course and kind of go that way, which is the kind of versus mode approach to it.
I think they could have shared a lot more information about how online will work, like what are the modes, what are we going to be playing as frequently? Can we set up like a little TNL community? Then we could do like tournaments every other weekend or something. Like, how's that all going to work? And we basically got nothing. Yeah,
exactly. There was no kind of like in-depth explanation on any of that stuff. I'm also confused by like, in free roam, can you just be in free roam while your friends are also in free roam and just come across each other? Is that like a connected thing you can do? Or are you only...
Or is it just the waiting room for online?
Right, exactly. Is it the only function of it to be, okay, we're going to do knockout, and so we're just going to be in here waiting until everyone joins? Can you like freely just explore with people, or are you not allowed to do that? That also didn't seem very clear in terms of explanation of how that worked. Because I think if that was the case, like if we could just be in a permanently online lobby with free roam mode and we're both just playing it on our own, but like we just run into each other randomly, and you can be like, oh, I want to start a race right now against Bally, and we can just do it there and then, that would be great. But I don't know. I feel like Nintendo's competence with the internet doesn't go that far. I
mean, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did have a decent number of like online modes and ways you could customize it. So
yeah,
at the bare minimum, it's got to have that, and it's got to. But that's bare minimum, right? Like, we should be expecting some really interesting new different modes. I can't think of what they would be, but come on, like Nintendo, they should be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a lot of clarity on that front. I think for me, it's the free roam stuff that is the most disappointing. Of, okay, they were hyping this up a lot, and they were like, oh, just you wait and see, and we'll tell you about some stuff. And like, there is some stuff in there that I would want to see, which is like, little missions that you can come across and do. But
switch buttons and
yeah, you can find hidden switches and you can press them and they'll make coins appear. But like, what is the point of that stuff, right? Like, I think these things need to have a purpose in the world and help you to work towards something, right? Like, okay, so Forza has those little signs.
Credits, right? And then the credits get you cars.
Exactly, right. So like there's a purpose to all that. Like in Forza Horizon, there's a purpose to doing those races in the open world. There's a purpose to finding those signs and bashing into them. You get currency that then rewards you as you buy new cars and get new stuff and kind of upgrade yourself. And like there's a mini RPG like progression to it. This is like, okay, find the mini challenge and collect the blue coins. What do I get from it? Well, they didn't tell us. So is that going to be meaningful? Is that going to lean into something? Is that going to give me like a meta progression thing? Is there anything I'm working towards here? Or am I simply just checklisting stuff? Am I just clicking a mission and doing it and then you did the mission, good job, now just keep exploring? Like that is just, it was not well done at all.
There are anecdotal stories of the open world from like journalists. Someone, I think it was Jesse Vitelli, who's like freelancer, was saying how like he saw like a UFO come and do something, and you can see like a brief bit of the trailer where like you're driving in a big massive truck.
Yes, yeah.
So there's definitely a few, but it's interesting to know, are there going to be like 5 cool things like that, or are there going to be 50 cool things?
Right,
you know,
and
like,
are they just like repeated across the world?
And exactly, what do you get for doing those? How does it all link up?
Right, because I think, you know, this could be just a failure of marketing on Nintendo's part and be like, oh, we just showed you this stuff, we didn't go in depth on it, and when you get to it, maybe I will be excited by that, and maybe it will actually be great.
Well, they have a plan down the line to start populating that open world with far more things through DLC and packs and seasons and who knows, but
which would be, oh god, that would be
but tell us about that if that's the plan. Tell us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it comes down to the way they are naming it and treating it, right? They've called it free roam mode, okay? What does that mean? That means, you can just go around and look at stuff, right? Like, and if they are framing it in that way, so I think it would be different. If they had called it world tour mode, right? That would say to players, this is the mode, right? This is the single player offering here. You're going to have a bit of cutscenes and story, and you're going to go around and you're going to do these races as part of that, and you're going to level up your character, whoever you choose, and you're going to unlock new carts, and you're going to unlock new costumes and all that sort of stuff as like a single player kind of mini RPG open world Mario Kart thing.
Yeah. Show me the list of missions with like stars next to them, and I can work my way through it and I get a nice satisfying, and
I get those coins, and then I go to a shop and I use those coins to buy a new car, and like that sort of progression.
Yeah.
If they'd called it World Tour,
it might still be there. That's the thing. It might still be there.
It might, but I think that the fact they are calling it free roam mode just says so much about it. Like, it says this is a thing you can do if you want, but it's not the main thing of this.
Is it Forza for babies?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's very much like
Bally Junior, Bally Chew. They're gonna have a great time just driving aimlessly around this world.
Right, it's making your own fun, right? Which I understand and I do appreciate that, but I think from the perspective of like, okay, we're turning Mario Kart on its head. Now it's open world. I don't see what the purpose of making it open world is if you don't do something with that from a single player perspective. And it seems like they are not doing anything with it from a single player perspective.
They would argue it's about linking the courses and you're driving between points and
Yeah, they would argue it's like, well, we're making the Grand Prix so much more open now. And I mean, there have been a lot of reactions online of people who are not happy about that because they're like, well, that's not Mario Kart. There's been a lot of, I've seen a couple of videos from like Mario Kart YouTube people who've been like,
I'm interested that there are Mario Kart YouTube people. That's cool.
Again, I was not aware of this entire sub community until I started seeing these videos appear on my YouTube, and I started watching them, and I was like, oh my god, these people they're hardcore. Like, I was watching, so they were using some footage of Mario Kart 8, and like some of the shit they were doing in Mario Kart 8, I was like, wait, these mechanics exist in the game? like insane shit. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's like, yeah, it's crazy stuff they tend to do. And all those people were like, it's just fucking straight lines, this Grand Prix stuff. Like,
yeah.
And I think it sucks. I think it's really bad and boring. And it just, again, it makes me not want to play Grand Prix, which is like the core mode they're pushing, which is fucking insane. So yeah, I think the Grand Prix stuff being disappointing, the open world seemingly feeling like an afterthought and being like, oh, there's these little things you can go press and that's about it. It leaves me with being like, okay, I guess the knockout tour is the thing that everyone cares about, and that seems actually quite cool. But for a game that I think was supposed to be like this big kind of brand new Mario Kart. We spent 12 years making it or whatever. Obviously they've not spent that long making it, but it's been that long since an original Mario Kart. So it's been the ideation phase for probably at least that amount of time. Like, you would think all that time would go into making this a robust open world approach to Mario Kart, and it just doesn't seem like it. And again, we could be wrong, but if we are, then Nintendo have done a terrible job marketing this. Like, absolutely awful, because the impression that I get is that it doesn't matter and that it isn't a thing I should really care about. So anyway, I'm very frustrated with this presentation.
I'm still more pumped than I was for Mario Kart 8, if I can even remember how I felt before Mario Kart came out, because that was such a long time ago.
I think also, but like back then, you know, the expectation was we get a Mario Kart once every few years because Nintendo consoles and handhelds happened at such a cadence.
And it's fairly iterative for the most part, especially those sort of 3 in a row were a little bit more iterative. And
the expectation is totally different in an era when Mario Kart 7 came out 2 years ago, because you're like, oh, cool, another one, and oh, they're doing a bit of gravity stuff, that's cool. New courses, right? Like, that was the thing to get excited about. It was like, oh, we're going to get some new tracks, what are those going to be? And like, oh, are they going to revive some old ones? Like, it's a different expectation from now, when it has been how many years? 11 years? 12 years since Mario Kart?
13?
Was it 2013? I think 2013. So 12 years since Mario Kart 8 came out. The expectation is just much bigger. And the positioning that they've given this game is also much bigger from the initial trailer and the overview of it. So, I can't help but be very disappointed in this. And a lot more kind of like bummed out for like the launch of this thing, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'll play it a lot, probably, but there's nothing else until Donkey Kong, so I guess I'll wait 6 weeks until, you know, the real star of the show appears.
You are quite sour on this. I'm feeling a bit more positive than you.
This presentation pissed me the fuck off. Like, I
agree.
was
the
sitting there.
presentation was not good. But
I was like, characters. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, yes, there's a cow. We already saw that. Like, Jesus Christ. I was. It was not great. So,
can I remind you, one of your predictions this year was that Mario Kart would be one of the Game Awards 6 nominees for Game of the Year.
Yeah. Well,
Are you still feeling confident of that slot?
I think that could still happen,
okay.
But probably not for me. You know, I think other people might make that happen. But yeah,
I think I'll like this game probably more than you, but I also don't think it will make that top 6. But
again, sorry for trampling on everybody's hype here, but I just wanted to express the purity of my experience, and I was just sitting there watching it, and I was verbally being like, what? Like, what are you doing? It was very funny. So anyway, I'm sure it'll be great. It'll be fine, and everyone will like it.
Not long now.
No, it's not. So we'll be able to experience it for ourselves. And I really just cross my fingers that I'm wrong about all this stuff, and that
I think it's going to be a very good time, especially for those first 6 weeks until DK comes. It's going to be hot.
Yeah, all I want to do is to be able to spend like hours and hours just wandering around the open world, like doing interesting stuff and having that be meaningful in some kind of progression way. And
I'm less confident about that, but I still think we'll have a good time.
Yeah, well, we'll play a lot of it at least.
On to an excellent game.
Let's talk about a good video game, shall we? So Bally, it's been maybe a month or so for both of us since we started playing Nine Souls, and
I've needed all of it.
yeah, we certainly have. So, Nine Souls, we talked about it a couple of episodes ago, I want to say. So, have given a little bit of the logline, but I guess just to brief people who have not heard that, Nine Souls is a Metroidvania in the vein of a Sekiro, in the sense that it is very combat heavy, and it relies a lot on parrying enemies and learning their attack patterns. And I would say
there's a difference between saying relying on parrying and the whole game is parrying.
Yeah, sure, yes. Okay, the game is a game about parrying, basically. But I think, like, when we were talking about it previously, we were more in kind of the first half of the game, which I would say...
I think I defeated, like, 2 bosses and you're on 1 boss, maybe?
Yes.
Or something? Like, very early.
Something like that. And so, yeah, we were loving it at the time, but I think we were still in the kind of the phase of the game where it's like, it's much more of a Metroidvania, which is to say, a lot more exploration of the map, getting lost like I did, and got lost for a very long time, and went to totally different areas, and by the time I got to the second boss was quite overpowered, but that was just as a result of me just being an idiot.
Nothing wrong with being overpowered for boss fights in this game.
No, certainly not.
Nothing wrong with it.
But I think that first half of the game is much more focused on, big areas and exploring them and getting to a place and like a build up to a boss fight, right?
It's some of the longest build up, I swear, to a boss in any Metroidvania I can think of. Like, especially that second and the third boss, I want to say. They hype up that boss and you get like this trickling out of story about the boss. I must have been playing the game at least 3 hours, I swear. And I play slower than you, obviously, but like I spent a long time building up to that third boss.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was cool, and I very much enjoyed that. But I did like feel at the time, I was like, well, the thing about this game is the combat, right? And that's the thing that really makes it sing. And so every time you get to a boss, there's a fear, but there's also an excitement, right? Like, there's a fear because you're like, oh, am I good enough to actually get through this? But there's an excitement of like, oh, I'm going to be here for a while. I'm going to learn this thing. I'm going to download this motherfucker, and then I'm going to get that perfect run, and I'm not going to lose any health. I'm going to parry everything perfectly, and I'm going to win, and it's going to be amazing. And I would say that you get to kind of like the midway point of the game, and it basically isn't a Metroidvania anymore. Like, it's basically like, oh no, now we're just going to do like the last 5 bosses, like back to back, essentially.
Yeah, there's a build up to the 4th boss, and then the 4th boss hits you like a ton of bricks compared to the 3rd boss. And they say, now for every boss onwards, we're going to have a very small amount of Metroidvania world exploration, and we're going to shove that next boss right in your face, and it's going to hit you over the head so damn hard you won't even know which way around you are. Like, it's brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, you are fighting these enemies that are like, they demand you to learn them, because if you don't, you will have no chance, right? Like, and I think that's the important thing about like why you're talking about like it's not relying on parries. It's like you just are a parry constantly. You
literally cannot decide with this game, oh, I'm not going to parry and still beat the game. I'm sure someone's done it, but
there's definitely people who have done like no parry runs of this, but they are insane people, I think. Because the game is designed around it. Like, it is the core of the combat, and to the point where there's not just like a parry, there's like multiple ways to parry and to react to certain attacks, right? So there's a regular, okay, he's going to hit me, I'm going to parry him. Then there is a in mid-air parry, which is indicated by the enemy glowing green and doing a big red attack. And if you jump mid-air and hit them with the parry like that, that's a different type of parry.
You like boop them like a Goomba and you time it, that kind of action.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to hit them as opposed to the attack that is happening.
Yes.
And then there is a third parry, which is holding down the parry button to charge up a parry.
The best. This is the best move.
Well, I mean, it's very satisfying when you pull it off. It's just the timing of pulling it off is very fucking hard.
Yeah.
But that can parry any red moves that a regular parry can't, essentially. So there's like these kind of like black and red kind of swirly moves that are very dangerous looking and will do a lot of damage and
for most of the game, or for the first half of the game, they're unparryable.
Right, so you have to dash through them or dodge out of the way.
And then they say, actually, you can parry them, you got to charge or parry, and it's just like a big moment.
Yeah, reach into yourself and believe in the heart of the cards, and you would be able to do it. And so that being thrown in, so you have 3 different ways of parrying, and so there is a puzzle element to these bosses of, okay, I need to learn what their moveset is so that I know how to take on each of these attacks and know what the wind-up is going to be for this one so that I can react quick enough in order to do it. And I would say that third parry, the one you have to hold it down, that is the one where you really require understanding the boss, because you have to anticipatorily do it before a big attack is happening. In order to do that, you need to know the big attack is happening.
Yeah.
So it's a game that almost requires you to die. Like, dying is very important because what it allows for you to do is to observe. And observation is the key to understanding what these bosses' movesets are, what they do after one attack, how they link them into each other, and how you can react to that accordingly, essentially. Yeah. So it's a lot to take in, but I think what it comes down to is some of the most grueling but satisfying fights I have ever had in a video game. Just unbelievable challenge, but challenge that it feels like incredible when you finally overcome it. Yeah. And I think this is the core of why Dark Souls works for people, right? It's like, okay, these games are hard, but they are fair, right? And I do think that as fucking hard as Nine Souls is, it is a fair video game, right?
Definitely.
It will give you the window to parry everything, to attack everything. Like, you can perfect parry every phase of the final boss without losing any health, and that is a viable thing that is very possible, and you can learn to do it. It's going to take a lot of time and patience and training, but you can do it, and I think that is why it's standing out so much to me.
I can happily announce that I did beat the final boss this morning.
I was going to say, I didn't know whether you had or not.
I beat the final boss this morning. I reckon that final boss took me in total between 4 and 6 hours.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
And maybe I was a little bit more underpowered than you were, MBZ, I don't know, but it was brutal. And that's the sort of the quote-unquote bad ending, where the good ending, there's one more phase.
There's another phase, which I don't even want to think about doing, if I'm honest.
I cannot fathom to think how I would ever do that third phase.
That said, like, by that point, by the time I'd gotten to beat the second phase, I knew the moveset so well that, like, I was just blitzing through phase 1. Like, I wasn't even thinking. I was just, like, dominating.
See, I was still not struggling, but, like, I wasn't nailing phase 1 every single time. I think I got a bit lucky in that if I'd put money on how long I think it would have taken me to beat the final boss, I would have said 6, 7, 8 hours. And I feel like I got lucky and did it much quicker than I thought I was going to do.
So you maybe just got one of those runs that worked out versus...
I just got a run where, like, everything is doing so well and I just need to hang in there, and oh my god, I'm down to like my last small chunk of health, and the boss is dead. Oh my god, I couldn't actually believe it when like it was tense. And I think one thing I also need to say about how good these boss fights are is that moment you kill the boss, because like presentationally this game is sublime. I think the music is great, the world building is immaculate, it's incredibly grim and gruesome and weird, and I need to go research more about the story, because I think the story is actually really strong. It's just it's laid out in quite a complicated way. And we've said before how Metroidvanias are kind of this genre where they notoriously have some of the weaker stories. But I think this story is very good and probably my favorite Metroidvania story. I don't know. But what I was going to say is the presentation and the way they present these boss fights is done so immaculately well that moment where you do the finishing blow to a boss and the whole screen goes black on white and you just get like this poof, and you almost see like
just the silhouettes of you and the boss in pure white,
and there's like a little bit of a blood spurt often out of the boss, and it's just that confirmation of oh my god, this is after 3 hours of just time and time again, that satisfaction and that moment. Like they know that you've been playing it for 3 hours. Like that's how much they want to present this moment that you kill a boss. Like you kill a boss in a Zelda game and it's like, wow, the boss died. well done. Whereas this moment, it's like cinematic and impactful and stunning. And it's because this game I think plays on so much kind of East Asian kind of sword samurai culture, all these things, sci-fi, but there's a huge religious element to this game. Like plays on so many themes, but it does it in such an uniquely artistic way that they incorporate those boss fights really well into the theming, and that final boss fight especially, where it's very much sword on sword, it's something else.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular stuff, and I think that it just has that sense of it knows exactly what it wanted to be. Like it has such a coherent vision to it, and just an understanding of, okay, we are going to tell this story, we are going to do this thing, but we are going to present these, like obviously the game is called Nine Souls, right? And so from the beginning, when you first find out what a soul is, it's like, oh, okay. So it's very much like
cats have 9 lives.
Yeah. Oh, right, as well. Yeah.
Right.
Gosh. There's a council essentially set up right from the beginning. It's like, okay,
very Jedi Council energy by the end, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, okay, here are all of these individuals who are on the council. You were wronged by them. It's time to get your fucking revenge, and you are going to fucking do that, basically. And it's so. It just, I think the other part of the presentation is the kind of comic book style to it.
Yes.
Of every time that you fight one of those bosses, there's like an intro that happens with the comic book.
You get a real backstory to every single boss, and there's a whole lot of time jumping in terms of the way the story's told, but you learn a lot about every single boss if you're paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also have those when you go into the kind of like soulscape after you defeat a boss to collect the soul, you walk through those kind of like diamond paintings, which like that whole area is just like beautiful.
I love that those areas are used as like a tutorial area early on when you're getting all your abilities as well. Like it's in the soulscape, as it were, and it's a very, very clever presentational thing.
Yeah, for sure. And so you get like these images and like one dialogue line for each of them that just like suggests what has happened essentially, or gives you like a condensed timeline of like what happened with these individuals before they got to this point, essentially. And I think that stuff just works really, really nicely. And I think they do a really good job of like having that hub area feel like a bastion of safety. In terms of the rest of the world is brutal. And I think like more so than any other Metroidvania, like you're just going to die just walking across random enemies, because even the normal enemies just can kill you in like 3 hits or whatever. Like if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention, then you're going to die immediately.
The power increase is incredibly gradual, and I don't think they fully explain it, but it's through the fruit that you get, which are quite hard to come by. There's some that are on the kind of mainline path, but the majority of this fruit, I think it's called the Tao fruit.
Fruit, yes, yeah.
They are another collectible in this game, and they make your attacks slightly more potent.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you are going through, and I think this is why I realized early on that I had gone down the wrong path, because I was like, I'm getting my ass handed to me by every single enemy here. I probably shouldn't be here. Like, so there's a mini boss I came across that I fought before the second boss. I didn't go and actually face and kill that mini boss until the end of the fucking game, after I realized I'd gone off the wrong path. So you can get to like high level areas, and actually apparently you can do bosses in different orders as well. Like, and it makes sense because I actually triggered the cutscenes for the third boss before I had fought the second boss. And some people actually have fought the second, like my friends at work is playing it, or played it as well at the same time as we did, and he fought boss 2 before boss 1 because that can happen, right? Which I think is also very interesting. And it seems like there is like a path you can follow, but I do think there's probably like ways in which you can circumvent that. In terms of like abilities and stuff you get, it's relatively straightforward from a movement perspective. Like you have a dash that eventually becomes an air dash, and you get a double jump eventually. And that's very standard Metroidvania fare, I would say. But I think that's purposeful, because the thing that they do focus on in terms of interesting upgrades is the parrying stuff and the key charges, right? Which is like it's a very kind of core, the talismans, a core fundamental part of the combat, which is basically when you are fighting an enemy and you're blocking them, you are building up this internal damage meter, which essentially means like their health is going down, but it changes to a different like color of red, essentially. So you're kind of like chipping away at like this internal bleed damage, and then when you're able to pull off a key charge, which is basically every time you parry, you get a charge of this key, and you can use that with different abilities to zoom through an enemy and basically burst it in their body.
It's like a separate dash, basically.
Yes, it's a dash that inflicts damage, essentially.
Basically, yeah.
But it's a different button from the dash, so you essentially have 2 dashes. One of them is just a dodge, one of them is to do damage with this kind of key charge, essentially. And you used a different one than I did. I basically stayed with the same one the whole game, which is the first one they give you, that basically you go through someone and you hold the button, you keep holding it down until it bursts, and then it does the damage, which basically means that when you do it, you have to be very careful, because if you do it and an enemy is still attacking you, they can knock you out of it. So you have to choose your moment for when you're going to do that, so that there's like a gap in the enemy pattern, which gets very hard towards the end of the game, because I think the 7th boss especially was one where I was like, I have no space to breathe. Like the second phase of that 7th boss, I was like, fuck, I can't heal anywhere. It's just like non-stop like throwing things at me, which was definitely challenging, and it took a lot of patience to overcome.
I went with the water talisman thing, and that allowed me, The ability of the water means that you can dash to the enemy, you tag them with the talisman, and you don't have to do anything else once you've tagged them. It'll just naturally explode and do damage to them. So I was able to find space and heal. It's basically like the chip damage, lower damage, faster mode, whereas yours is like you need those windows to do more damage. And then there's even one that's like an even slower, more powerful version of the one you used that I definitely didn't want to touch because it was just like you need to find massive windows. But I've seen like gameplay online of people using that really powerful one, and they can like do bosses in like 3 hits if they get like a 5 charge one going. But it's just a really good example of different play styles. You can beat this game different ways. And one more thing to mention is that internal damage is also something that you as the main character, you can take.
Yes.
So if you do a perfect parry, you take no damage and you get 1 key orb talisman. If you do an imperfect parry, so you've slightly mistimed it, you don't take any damage, you take internal damage. So it'll be like a dark red that goes down on your health meter, and it will gradually build up. If
slowly charge back to full, essentially.
It'll gradually recharge and back to full health. If you take damage while you are gradually healing your internal damage, you will lose that damage on top of the damage that was still recovering. So it's like, boof, like you've lost a lot of health. So it's really important to like, I say play it safe. There's not really any way to play it safe, as it were, with a lot of these bosses.
No, you just need to like keep parrying until you have a window.
You just need to keep. You see, it's just like parry better, person, is what the game is telling
just
you.
Just get good at the
like,
video game.
Get good, because you need to parry to save your ass. And you recommended a really good jade. So jades are like badges from like Hollow Knight or not Blind Forest, Will of the Wisps. But so the badge you suggested was the healing one, and it makes your internal damage heal faster. I definitely used that on the final boss, and it helped a lot.
Yeah, I was using one that caused more internal damage to enemies, which helped kind of chip theirs away a lot more. And then I also had one that increased the speed of my pipe healing, basically. So it's just similar to Hollow Knight, where like in Hollow Knight you have to hold in a corner to like charge your health back. Here you have a pipe that you get out, and you basically take a huff on the pipe and it heals you back up. It's a bit of a slow animation, but there is a jade that makes that healing a lot quicker, so I had that one equipped so that if I was in a pickle and I was like, oh, I just need a tiny window here to heal, I'd be able to heal
I
much
found
faster.
My water one gave me much larger windows to heal. And there's also like a very cinematic, cool moment where I'd dash through them, do damage to them, and as they're taking damage, I'm just like smoking my pipe. It's like this, it's like a walking away from an explosion kind of look. Yeah,
exactly. That's great. So yeah, there's that as well. So I think depending on your playstyle and what you like, you can mess with those. They're like computer chips essentially. Like you get additional chips to slot this jade into. It's like they're basically computer chip with jade attached to them, and they can be slotted in. And there's large ones; they take up more space, and you can buy more stuff basically. So there is money that you can collect as you're exploring, and you can use that at certain shops to buy upgrades. And one of them is like, how much healing do you do when you use your pipe? And you can also upgrade the number of heals that you get per fight as well, which is super helpful. I ended up doing some grinding at the end of the game, so I found a grind spot for like money and for experience, just so I could max out my skill tree, and then also...
How many pipes did you have by the end of the game?
I think 7.
I had 6.
Yeah.
And what about the fruit?
I don't know how many I had. I never counted with the Tower Fruit, but I felt like I'd explored most stuff, basically.
And you had all the health boosts. For your health meter.
Yes, I had all the boosts because I
was definitely missing at least 4 or 5 of those.
Right. So basically, to get the true ending of the game, you have to. So there's a couple of characters, right? There's they call them the ape men. They're basically humans, right? And they are, because your main character.
They are humans.
Yes, yeah. Well, your main character is an anthropomorphic cat, essentially,
yes.
Right? And this entire race, they're called Solarians. They are anthropomorphized cats. They are all just like feline,
but they're all suffering from a pandemic that's killing them
kind
off.
of disease. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they need to farm humans to survive, basically.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. So, but you take on a couple of these humans at your hub area, and so throughout the game you can give them things as gifts. And so the kid Schwan, you can give him a bunch of stuff, and then the older guy as well, you can give him poison stuff because for some reason his biology when he eats poisons it like helps him
like a
or something.
joke, yeah.
Yeah, so you basically can give him all of that. So to get the true ending, you have to give both of those characters everything from the
I had
game.
loads of gifts still to give Schwan that I hadn't finished
Oh,
giving
you
him,
didn't
basically.
actually
Yeah.
activate them. Interesting.
But I didn't want to do the hard
No,
ending
but
and-
again, you don't like even if you do all that stuff, you can make a dialogue choice at the
Yes,
end that
yeah.
doesn't lock you into the true ending.
Part
So
of me was like, what if I beat this second phase and the game thinks I've done everything?
No,
and
no,
they-
no.
I was like, no,
yeah, you had not fulfilled the conditions because
No.
there's an entire like village side quest you have
Yeah,
to do.
I did
with-
do that.
You did the whole thing.
The side quest, yeah.
There's like multiple stages to it.
Well, where you get the yellow worm thing.
Yes.
I did that.
Okay, so you did go all the way through that.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So yeah, basically you have to fulfill a bunch of conditions in order to get the true ending, and then at the end you can make a choice in order to do that or not. And if you choose one dialogue option, you'll get the much harder fight with the third phase and a different ending, which is much better in terms of the cutscene and stuff that you get and all that sort of stuff. But it's obviously a lot harder. And I think Bally and I both wisely opted to be like, yeah, we'll just we'll take the regular route here and.
I think we're pretty good at games, but this
Yeah.
game, this is maybe the hardest game I've ever beaten.
I think in terms of like a
Like-
2D action game, it's the hardest
Yeah,
2D action game I've played.
Right? Like it's, I don't know. I didn't do all the extra difficult stuff in Hollow Knight, for example. I know that gets pretty tough, but I
Right.
think this is a few. The base game is definitely at least a few rungs above the difficulty of that game for sure. Like it's really, really challenging.
Yeah.
It was very fun because we were kind of like did boss fights. Those last kind of 5 boss fights, we were like WhatsApping each other back and forth a lot. Like, I just did this one. It was so tough, and you were like, I've just done it too. Oh my god, it was so tough. And then you were like, Bally, I think on the 7th boss, you were like, Bally, I got it down to the tiniest smidge of health, and then I didn't beat it for another 3 hours or something. I was
Yeah,
like, oh my
yeah.
god. And it was funny because I feel like bosses I found easier, you found harder, and vice
Right.
versa, like for
Yeah.
sure. Which
Yeah,
was really
definitely.
interesting. And I think that also plays to like our personal, the way we play games, and also the builds we were using. Like I think my build
Yes.
for that 7th boss was much better, for example. Like
Right, because you were using the electric arrows as
The
well,
electric
which was so
arrows.
we haven't talked about the arrows, but the arrows are like another tool in your arsenal in terms of
and
combat.
there's 3 different types of arrows.
Yeah. There's the kind of regular arrows that go through multiple enemies and do a lot of damage. There's the electric ones that basically create an orb of electricity in the ground where they hit and just do constant damage if an enemy is standing in it. And then there's the third one, which I never really used much, which were like the homing arrows, basically. They like home into enemy locations.
I didn't upgrade any of them other than the bomb ones, the bomb electric ones.
Right. I maxed out the regular, which is the ones that I used.
Okay.
And then I got level 2 in the other 2, I think, but never got the 3rd level in the other 2. But some of the late game skills that you unlock are kind of tied to some of the arrow stuff you can do. So my key, basically the last level of my key stuff, when I got a key dash through an enemy, I would get an arrow back, basically. So I was encouraged to just use my arrows, and when I key dash through an enemy, I'd get more arrows back. So I was like replenishing my ranged option constantly throughout the fight.
Did that help on most bosses, or was it just too difficult?
So the only boss I ended up using it on was the final one, because I actually didn't have access to that skill until the end.
Okay,
because,
right.
like I said, I grinded right at the end of the game, and I think you did it a lot more consistently throughout.
Yeah.
So because I did it right at the end, I actually only had it.
Do you know what your hour count was in the end?
Yes, I believe it was. It was 1.2 days, which I believe calculates. I think so. My in-game clock was 29 hours, according to the in-game count.
I was 35 or 37. I can't remember which one.
Wow.
but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was definitely challenging, but like I felt good that it took me 3 hours to fight every boss at the end there, because like it felt like I had overcome something, you know, like there was a real energy to it, and you know, you get those moments where you're like, can I even do this? You know, like, am
I found boss 6 and 7 so much easier than 5 and 8, like by a mile. Like it was crazy how much I struggled on 5 and 8. And and then I think you found 6 and 7 hard, and there was
7 was the hardest for me by far. Like I died so much that one.
Because when you were saying how hard 7 was, I was like, oh, for God's sake, like this is tough. And yeah, after I fought the 4th boss before you, I was like, there are 4 more bosses in this game. This is the 4th one. This game is going to kill me.
Also, Bally did a stupid thing where he fought the 4th boss without like doing the thing that the game kind of makes it easier for you with that boss fight. Which, if I'm honest, I actually looked at some videos and it didn't seem to make a massive difference.
You still had a pretty rocky time even having doing it.
Because like basically the idea is that you poison him before he comes out of his like he's like in a Bacta tank essentially, and you drop like a bit of a disease in there to poison his health. And the only change is in the first phase he'll sometimes just bend over coughing, so it's like gives you a window to attack him. But in the second phase he's like, nah, fuck you, and he goes all out. So the boss fight is still very challenging. It's just that Bally had no window of like easing him into it. It was just full throttle from the beginning. So I had a much tougher time.
That was such a cool boss fight. I very much
it's really good. Yeah. Like all of them are so well designed, just from a moveset perspective and from a just like making you use the mechanics perspective. Like they force you to engage with everything that the game has going on. And that's great, because I there's definitely a world in which they give you all these tools and then people just don't use them because they don't have to.
Exactly.
But they force you to, and you have to learn them, and you have to get good at them. And that just leads to great satisfaction, because it means you have to make those snap decisions of like, oh, this is happening, so therefore I know that's going to happen, so I have to hold it here and then release here, and just like making the timing perfect on each of those is it's a dance essentially. Like, and that final boss fight, it feels like a dance when you nail it, when you understand all the moves and what is going to follow up what and how to deal with them. It's masterful, really just masterful stuff.
Do you want to hear a stupid thing about the Steam Deck that was frustrating me?
What's going on?
Maybe I could have fixed this if I'd gone into like settings, but so to change different types of arrows was left and right on the D-pad. 2 things were changing my arrows without me intending to change the type of arrow I wanted to use, because I just wanted to use the bomb one the whole time. So when I healed by pressing up on the D-pad, sometimes it would heal me, but it would also switch to left or right to a different type of arrow. That was frustrating in and of itself. But then I realized when I was pressing left bumper to like do a standard parry, sometimes when I was pressing it, it was changing the type of arrow I was having equipped. Like it was affecting. Maybe the circuitry on the D-pad is ultra sensitive or something weird. I have no idea.
That seems insane.
So half the time, there were certain bosses, even including the final boss, where I was using arrows. But my go-to with the arrows was like arrow.
Just like spam them, basically.
Spam them all, get them all out there, and then they've lost like, I don't know, third, quarter, sometimes half health, and then we play from there. So it wasn't like I was constantly using arrows intermittently in matches, but it meant that I really had to be ready to change the damn type of arrow back to what I wanted in order to... it was just a stupid, annoying thing that I probably...
That's frustrating. But, I wonder if that's... obviously, you have an old Steam Deck of mine, so maybe it's just like a bit of wear and tear, and so now... I could have maybe just... unequipped it from the D-pad and then put it on like the paddles underneath or something. You could have just like rebound the controls potentially if you wanted to, but like when you're that deep into a game, if you've learned the controls, it's just frustrating to relearn stuff essentially.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't have had to I just wanted to disable it because I never changed arrows. I just wanted that type of arrow. But it's interesting what you're saying about it being a dance, and we've played a bunch of Metroidvanias and action games similar. I think in terms of combat, this is the best of the bunch, and that's even on top of something like Prince of Persia last year that we absolutely loved, our game of the year for TNL. This game, in terms of combat, definitely not in terms of platforming. I think this game, in terms of platforming, it's not weak, it's just not something the game goes for
It's
much.
Fine. It's not really the focus of it for the most part.
No, not at all. Whereas Prince of Persia was like, we're going to go heavy on platforming, we're going to go heavy on combat, and we're going to go pretty heavy on exploration. I think this game does exploration, at least for the first half of the game, and then really heavy on the combat, and that just ramps up massively in the second half of the game, as we described. But it is up there with my favorite Metroidvanias, and because Metroidvania is like one of our favorite genres, that honestly makes it one of my favorite games. Like genuinely, it's that good. This game is phenomenal, and I think it was one of my predictions was like this is going to be like the Hollow Knight of 2025 because no one played it last year. It's going to come to Switch 2. Everyone's going to play it. If we can play our part in starting that snowball rolling, let's try, because my God, people who like Metroidvanias and especially combat-orientated Metroidvanias need to play this game. It is so good.
Yeah, I do struggle like putting it in a Metroidvania list because in so many ways it doesn't feel like
feels more
one
like
to me. Yeah, totally. Like it is. And half the game is a boss rush, essentially, right? Like, it is like, the majority of the hours you will spend in this game is fighting bosses. Yeah. So...
3/4.
Yeah, pretty much. I do struggle to rank it alongside Metroidvanias because it does do some of that stuff, and it does do some of that stuff quite well, but it's just clearly not the priority here. So yeah, it's a little tricky to put it up there. But in terms of like just as games go, as just like things that I like, yeah, I fucking love it. Like, it's really, really good. And yeah, I do hope that more people check it out this year and get around to it, because it certainly deserves it. And like, I think we kind of talked about this, jokingly, but like, I'm way more passionate about this than I ever was about Hollow Knight. Like, I think Hollow Knight's great, a fantastic game, but I think I'll like this more than I'll like Silksong at the end of the day.
I think I will be the same. I think I will have a good time with Silksong. I think this will have prepared me nicely for Silksong if that game is as tough as Hollow Knight was. But everyone moaning about Silksong not coming out yet. You need to play this game. Like, I bet you so many of those people moaning have not tried this game, and they need to, because it is excellent. I mean, I think one thing Hollow Knight has over it is that whole exploration into the unknown kind of feeling. I think Hollow Knight is excellent at that. But in terms of like combat,
I think in terms of exploration, like, this is on the weaker end from that perspective.
It's also like there's quite a few times where the story's like, right, and then you're going to go and do this, and you're like, where am I meant to go? And obviously you got lost famously before that third boss, and I had that same issue on that same thing that gets the boat to cross the water or whatever.
Right, oh my God.
There's just a few times the game's like, oh, I'm going to do this, and you have no idea where to go, and it's not obvious in the slightest, and I definitely had to look up quite a few things with this game. But, man, this game is something else. It really is. I think I might be more sour on it if I had failed to beat the bosses, because this game really does force you, and does have an easier mode, but this game on standard does really force you to use every single ounce of ability you might have in action platforming, because it's tough.
So yeah, go track it out. It's a pretty special game, and hopefully there's like a Switch 2 edition of it that comes out this year that more people get to check out. Lovely. Well, that's going to do us for the first part of the show. Don't go anywhere though, because we'll be back after the break with some of your emails. We'll see you in a bit.
Welcome back to the second part of today's show. It is that time again. It is time for emails. We put out the cry, and a lot of people responded, which is awesome. So thank you very much for that. If you would like to send an email into the show, please email thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. We also have a channel on our Discord server, and our first email is actually from someone who posted on Discord. So our first question is from Luke on Discord, like I said, who says, I watched the below video listening to the last podcast, and like everyone else online found it hilarious, and it got me thinking about your daily routines and how you manage to fit in all the gaming that you do. MBZ, before I go on, could you describe the video to our listeners?
Oh god, it's a video that kind of went viral. It's about like this guy who's like, here's my daily grind set routine, and it's like the most efficient, like, does all this stuff wakes up at like 5 a.m. to like work out 300 times, and then calls his bank and makes money by doing stocks and shares by like pressing a button, and like I don't know. It reads like a parody. It's not. This guy actually lives like this, and it's I don't know. I mean, it says a lot about like the entire manosphere and that entire kind of like alpha male kind of grind set stuff that's been going on. But yeah, I think it kind of went viral because that reason, because it's so fucking absurd. But that's the world we live in now. So anyway. Yeah, about efficiency in your routine, I guess. Right. It's like, it's like those guys who are like, everyone has 24 hours. I have 36 hours because I like create hours by being so efficient.
Sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Luke goes on to say, I recently had my second child and I'm struggling to find time to do anything at all. So I'm especially curious to find out how Bally gets on with 2 kids, a wife, a job, everything else in life, and also has the time he manages to play video games. When do you play? Where and how do you play? What's your typical day like? The only thing I know is that MBZ loses at least 30 to 60 minutes on the toilet each day. Well, Luke, huge congratulations on your second child. That's
Absolutely.
Very exciting.
See, this is the thing about it. Like, what do I do if I have a child? Because I will have to do that. I will have to take a shit for 30 to 60 minutes still.
I don't think we're talking about the gaming, but you went to shit first.
Yeah, no, this is important. It's very important. You know, like, what am I going to do? I just need to change my body to do something else. It's going to be a big problem. It is a big problem generally because I basically have to wake up much earlier than I would otherwise for work because I
just going into the office is enough of a pain in the ass for you.
Yeah. So, again, like, it's not like I would use those, because I do it in the morning, first thing in the morning. I'm never a game in the morning person. I know there's a few people who do that, who like wake up super early in the morning and play games before work.
I did that for a period with Ghost of Tsushima when Bally Jr. was... No, it's before Bally Jr. Ghost of Tsushima was 2020, so yeah, long before Bally Jr. But it was like, I went in this mode of like, I need to beat this game, and I would get up and play before work. I'd then play at lunch, and then I would play after work, and I'd already played about 4 or 5 hours before I'd even had dinner. And
that's
it was
fucking
like,
crazy.
Wow,
yeah.
This is satisfying. But that was long before kids, anyway.
Sure, yeah, that's a real efficiency play. I feel like there's always a pre-work anxiety that just sets in. Like I can't do anything before I start the work day. Like it just doesn't work for me. Like I have to.
You just gotta hit the shitter.
Yeah, I've just got to go in and do it, and that's it. And like, obviously, I'm like catching up on all things that are happening in the morning, in terms of like what's going on in the world or whatever, and just like updating my social feeds and stuff like that. But to do game stuff in the morning, I find it would be difficult in the sense that I would just have to wake up much earlier, and I would rather play games later and go to bed later, and then just lie in the morning and then go straight into work at the beginning of the day.
I generally prefer gaming in the evening. I have no choice at the moment. I'll get
exactly
to that,
yeah, no option. But yeah, I would say that 30 to 60 minutes doesn't affect my gaming time because I wouldn't be using it for gaming anyway.
I like how you don't even say like, Luke, it's not 30 to 60, okay? It's like 20. No. You're just like, no, it is 30 to 60.
No, 20 is rapid for me. 20 is like, that's a fast one, you know? Like, I don't know what it is with my body, but I cannot, like, I have to. It's just impossible.
I think if you have kids, you just need to be very upfront with your partner that, like, look, I take 30 to 60 minutes. If this is a deal breaker, let me know right now, because I ain't changed.
It's one of those red flags, like, yeah, absolutely. Let's just put that on my profile. Like, please don't, don't get into this relationship. You gotta handle me going for a dump for that long in the morning, you know? Anyway.
Your body might change in time.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, who knows?
Right, how do I fit it in? Right, so I'm going to run through a weekday, and then I'm going to run through a weekend day because they're kind of structured a bit different. Let's go for a weekday.
Sure.
So alarm goes off 7 a.m. I get Bally Jr. up at 7:15 a.m. He comes downstairs. We get him ready for nursery. I then drive him to nursery for 8 a.m. At the moment, it's kind of, I know, a little bit past 10 past 8. I get home again, having driven him to nursery for 8:30, and I clock into my work from home job. I work from home almost all the time. I go into the office maybe twice a month, really not often at all. So I clock in at 8:30. I'll clock out for lunch at, say, midday-ish, and then I'll either go for a run, or I will have a power nap, or I will play video games. And I always tend to do one of those three things on a lunch break. I'll never do something else, or it's very rare I do something else. And obviously I'll have some lunch as well. I then clock back in after like 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. I then finish the work day at 20 past, half past 4, sometimes 20 to 5. And that's where I take over looking after Bally Chew, who's been with Caroline. And then Caroline goes and gets Bally Jr. from nursery. Bally Jr. comes home from nursery, and then we're into the mad dash, home from nursery into bedtime routine, which is the most hectic time of the day, and it also sucks because it's the time of the day where you're just the most knackered from work, or if I've been on a run or whatever, I'm just exhausted. And so that's really hard. But basically, in that time, up until 7 p.m., we're having dinner and we're getting Bally Jr. ready for bed. Bally Chew's just kind of floating around. He doesn't have strict bedtime yet. He's still a little bit young. But then 7 p.m. hits. Bally Jr.'s asleep. Bally Chew's either awake or asleep. It's kind of 50-50 at the moment. And then Caroline and I have like 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours to just hang out. Normally we watch TV, less so films, normally reality TV, and just chat to each other. And that's like our quality time together. So the only time we get at all that's together, basically, without the kids awake. And then Caroline will go to bed between 9:30 and 10 p.m. I stay up with Bally Chew. This is crucial. This is how I get my gaming in. I stay up with Bally Chew until, if it's a weekday, like I've got work the next day, I stay up till between midnight and half past midnight. If it's a non-work day the next day, I might stay up a little bit later. But in that time, Bally Chew might wake up, he might not. So it's a bit variable how much gaming time I get in. But I basically have like a 2.5 hour slot to get my gaming in. Now, if I'm really into a game at the time, I'll really push hard and I'll be like, right, let's get gaming, let's keep going. And I have to game in that moment or I'll lose my time for the day. There's like no other time really to play other than like my lunch break occasionally, like I said. So I have to play it there and then. Bally Chew might wake up, I'll give him some milk, he might go back under. Sometimes he might wake up, he might be awake for another 45 minutes. So I'll just be like listening to podcasts, helping him get back to sleep. And then I'll go to bed at 12:30, bring Bally Chew upstairs with me, and then the deal with Caroline is that she gets up with Bally Chew in the night if he wakes up, and I get my hopefully 6.5-7 hours sleep between 12:30, and then I get up at 7 a.m. and do it all over again. So that's basically how I get in 1.5-2 hours of games in a weekday, that even when I have 2 kids. And I like to think I fulfill my fatherly duties, so I'm still doing it all, basically. And on top of that, I'm getting a run in, because Luke, if you're the Luke I'm thinking of, you're very into your running. So I know that you get that running in because you are incredibly fast. But yeah, that's what a weekday looks like. A weekend day, I'll quickly run through a weekend day. It's basically the same. We'll get up a bit later, so like alarm set for 8 a.m. instead of like 7:15, because Bally Jr. can sleep in pretty well, and even if he wakes up, he just stays. He's a god kid for this reason. He will stay in bed once he wakes up. He never gets out of bed.
Wow.
And we don't want to push this too much. It's not fair on him, but like we'll give him like 20 minutes, half an hour lying in bed, and he sings to himself. He's not. If he was moaning or unhappy, he'd tell us. We've got the monitor, so we know. And yeah, so we'll get up at like 8 a.m. Then we'll have Bally Chew will be up, Caroline will be up. We'll have breakfast. We try and do like an outing or a trip to the park. If we're going out, it has to be in the morning before Bally Jr.'s nap, because Bally Jr. naps after lunch. So normally starts a nap at like 1:30, finishes at 2:30, or sorry, 3:30. Generally naps 2 hours when he's at home. That is another good window to potentially fit some gaming in,
like an afternoon kind of
exactly
nap.
So
but obviously you also like to nap, so I imagine sometimes you just sleep during that period.
I also like naps, so it depends Caroline and I are really honest with each other. We're like, right, who's more well rested at this point in time? Who needs the nap more? Like, we'll discuss who's going to have the nap. Sometimes we try and both nap in that window, which gets a bit tricky. But let's say Caroline takes the nap. So she'll go for 2 hours and mirror Bally Jr.'s nap. I'll be with Bally Chew. And basically, I've got this 2 hour window in the middle of the day where Ballychew might be napping for a bit of it, he might not. If he's napping for a bit of it, right, I might have 30-40 minutes of game time, let's get that in. If not, then obviously I don't, and then again I won't get any gaming time in again until Caroline goes to bed, which will happen at 9:30 p.m. So on average, I think I get like an hour and a half in a day, and if you add that up over the year, 365 times an hour and a half, that's a
like
good
500 hours, something like that.
Yeah, that's like 400 or 500 hours of gaming. And if you divide that across games, I think that pretty much marries up to what I did last year roughly, and I do most years. So that is essentially how I fit it all in, on top of having a job. And yeah, I should also say I work a 4-day week, so Thursdays are my non-working days. So that those Thursdays at the moment with Caroline on maternity leave look like Saturdays and Sundays basically. So that's basically how I fit it all in. So yes, I am consigned to these periods to game. If I don't game in them, I won't game at all. So it can be quite hard to just kind of turn on that gear and be like, right, especially with a tough game like Nine Souls, it's really hard to just like flip into gear and know, right, you've got to fight this boss. And also the ideal way to fight those bosses is to set aside 3-4 hours and you are just going to play that game until you do
it, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really, I found it really tough not being able to do that. It is a bit of a shame. It's difficult to get back in the zone and get back in. So in that way, I was kind of handicapped compared to MBZ over here, right?
Well, I actually had to do that with the final boss of Nine Souls, because I played it on like a Sunday of a weekend, and it was like 11 p.m. and I started at 11 p.m. Bad idea. But like I got an hour into it, and then I was like, okay, I'll pick this back up this week. But turned out to be the busiest work week of the year, just in terms of me being not able to play. Like usually I'll have a lot of time to play. I think that week had 2 days of a management thing, so I was out both nights, and then on the Wednesday I went into the office as well, and then went out for drinks afterwards. And then Thursday we launched a trailer for Voidbreaker at the Triple I Initiative, and so that entire evening was spent just like watching reactions to people and all that sort of stuff. Then that Friday there was something else that happened. I just was too kind of in my own head of like just watching stuff, and then I didn't get back to it until the weekend on the Saturday, and that was a whole week of not fighting that boss, even though I'd done the first phase. And so getting back to it, I was like, okay, I need to just like relearn this entire thing essentially. So it can happen, but it's very rare for me to have weeks like that where things are just a bit more busy, generally speaking, because usually my evening time is pretty free, so I have a lot more space to just play what I want when I want. And I think the thing that you don't have the luxury of is like sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna sit and play and just watch YouTube for this evening. That's what I want to do. I'm just gonna.
And I will do that on that. Like once Caroline's gone to bed, I will be like, oh, I just don't have it in me to game tonight. I'm gonna watch like rugby replays or YouTube, or let's just sit here listening to podcasts, or because like gaming it totally depends on the game and where you're at in it and what you're doing, but I'm just not always in the mood to game or play the game that I'm currently playing, and you just need that space to do something else, especially if it's been a busy day. Most of my days, as they probably sound, are very busy and quite tiring. One more factor to factor in here that makes the evenings tougher is Bally Jr. doesn't really nap at nursery, so he comes home in like, we call it goblin mode. He's just really grouchy, really like susceptible to a very difficult tantrum, and you're almost on like this ticking time bomb of we need to get him to bed as soon as possible. The longer we wait this out, the more goblin mode he's going to go, and it's that balance of we want to rush him enough where we're like getting him to bed at as early as like 6:30, 6:15 potentially, if he's that tired. But then equally, he's so tired that he takes so much longer to eat his dinner. And it's like, oh my God, we just need to get you to bed. What's really great about Bally Jr. is sometimes he'll finish his dinner and he just looks at us. He's got like the sad look on his face. He just goes, bed? And like, he's willing to skip his bedtime routine just to go straight to bed. Like he doesn't, normally we'd give him like a milk. He gets like... we read a couple of books together, get him in like his pajamas and all that, but sometimes he's up for just going straight into his pajamas, straight into the bed, and we just turn the lights off and go. And the fact
just leave
and he's that's the other thing about Bally Jr. is you don't have to be in the room when he falls asleep. He's happy to just get in his bed, lie there, and get
Sing
to sleep
to himself.
Yeah, sing to himself. Sometimes, well, when he's tired, he just goes straight out like a light. Like, he is an absolute champion sleeper. So that's a big part of this answer, Luke, is Bally Jr. is a champion sleeper. Both
It's the role of the genetics, basically. Yeah.
Both getting to sleep and getting up in the morning. Like, he will lie in, he will sleep full 12 hours most nights. He's an absolute saint, and we pray that Bally Chew can match his older brother in this one way in particular. And I would say Bally Chew's on the trajectory to match him so far, but it's
That's
early
good.
days yet, but fingers crossed.
You did mention last segment that you beat the Nine Souls boss this morning, which wouldn't fit into any of the things you've described. So how does that happen?
Well, today is Saturday, so my parents normally take Bally Jr. on a Wednesday, but this Wednesday Caroline's dad was up, so we went out and did stuff on the Wednesday, and so my parents didn't see Bally Jr. and they were like, oh, could we take him on the Saturday? We said, yeah, sure. So my parents took Bally Jr. to today, and then I said to Caroline, like, please may you take Bally Chew while I attempt to beat this boss. And she was very kind and let me do it. So
okay.
Caroline is a huge part of gaining me access to my gameplay time, because she obviously like gets up with Bally Chew in the night. That allows me to go to bed at the time I do and all these sorts of things. So she does a huge amount to allow me to play games. And most importantly, I should say how we record the podcast. So every other week, every fortnight, and then on top of that, Patreon. So most weekends, MBZ and I work out whether we're going to record on like a Friday night or Saturday night normally, and then one of us edits on the Sunday night, generally speaking. I'll always like check with Caroline, because she basically takes Bally Chew at 7 p.m. So Bally Jr.'s gone to bed, and then at 7 p.m. is when we try to start on Skype to record the pod. So yeah, Caroline does a huge amount to allow that to happen. But she knows this is important to me, like
Sure.
which I'm very grateful for. So it all works together, and the pod stays on the road, and I managed to fit it in somehow. But it's hard. I'm not going to deny it. It's hard, and I do get very tired. I can have a day of like not leaving the house, and I still feel exhausted just because of everything I'm trying to do. But
yeah, that's how it goes.
Get there.
Yeah, and it's only 18 more years, Bally, so it's fine. You'll be.
I mean, I'm going to do a lot more gaming, especially this game, Mario Kart World. Like, I think Bally Chew and Bally Jr.
Right, well, I think that's the thing, right? Like, when they are a bit more grown up, then, like, your gaming time becomes hangout time with them, right? Because that's a thing you would do as a family. So, yeah, we'll probably change things a bit. But,
probably save the violent video games for, like, when they go into bed. But then, yeah, you're right. There'll be times where we can hopefully get some good multiplayer sessions in with them awake in that morning slot. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, obviously I have a lot more time and tend to just spend that doing whatever, and so I can choose when I'm like, oh, I'm going to spend like this entire Saturday playing 10 hours of Monster Hunter, you know, which is great, and I have the freedom to do that.
I'm just going to lie until 10.
I woke up at 10 today. Yeah, I won't lie.
Oh my God.
So it's fine. But also, like, I don't know, I do work a lot, and I definitely probably work more than I should, and part of that is just because I like my job and I like what I do, and I'm obviously very personally invested in it, which is hard sometimes because, like I mentioned, right, we announced Voidbreaker. I spend my whole evening just like looking at people making videos or Twitch streaming the game, right? Which is fun because I'm invested in it and I've played a lot of the game, and like I talk to the developer a lot and feel like I have kind of like a part in it, and so when I see that stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I just want to check this stuff out and see like what are people tweeting about it, what are people saying about it. But I think it's very tricky to disconnect, right? And I think I've talked about that before, but like it's hard to separate when your job is so like something that you like doing, that it's like, where does that end? You know, where do I like cut it off? Because it's hard to find that space to do that. And I remember like when Balatro launched, I was like non-stop just like looking at stuff, and like the only thing that could ground me was like watching Northern Lion play the game and not like keep refreshing stuff, because I could focus on one thing, which is him, but he was playing the game, and so it was still me, consuming stuff about the game. But yeah, like that 2 weeks was insane. It was just like, the problem is when you have something that successful, you will never run out of things to look at on the internet. And I'm very susceptible to just like refreshing social media and just refreshing YouTube, and just like I go in a circle, basically. I go in a circle of like doing that, and then looking at Steam forums, and then looking at Reddit, and then looking, like, there's endless sources for it. So it tends to happen every time that we make an announcement. Like with Unbeatable, we just launched a demo for that, and so a bunch of people were streaming it, so I was watching them play it, and then people are like posting in the Discord about it, and so I'm reading stuff what people are saying. So yeah, it's good in a sense, because like I do enjoy it, it's great, but it's also like I need to find a way to like disconnect. So I feel like I do lose a lot of time in the evening sometimes to just like, my work brain is just still going. I often find that I need the Friday like night and then weekend, like wake up on a Saturday to like disconnect fully from work and be like, right, I'm going to do my own thing now. So yeah, it's definitely, it's great and I love it, but it's also, it's a thing that's very hard to kind of like pull yourself away from.
I will say it could definitely help you disconnect from work.
Because you're forced to, essentially.
You're forced to, and I'll be honest, like, in the grand scheme of like everything going on in your life, work feels a lot less important when you have kids in a very obvious way. You're just like, these kids are my focus, they're my everything, I need to do this, I need to do that, and your work, it's obviously still important, but it's not, it just can't be the number one thing, arguably. I mean, everyone's different, but for me, it was just like, right, well, now I need to do this and this, and yes, my work's important, but I need to make sure that everything's right and everything for Bally Junior and Bally Chew, because it just takes over. And I do think that helps you disconnect. Definitely.
Yes, definitely.
And because the second it's Friday night and the kids are asleep, it's like, get the rugby on, let's get the beers out, let's get a takeaway, let's just like go horizontal, because it's just exhausting.
It does, obviously it depends on your job as well. Like my previous job, I had no problem disconnecting, because I was like, I don't want to ever think about that. Like I was like, fuck this, I just want to do my own thing now. I'm never going to think about anything to do with work, and that's a total opposite direction, right, where it's like, it's very easy for me to disconnect because I just don't want to think about it, and it helps. Versus this, where it's like I'm thinking about it 24/7, which is very hard. But yeah, I don't know. It's also, yeah. I mean, it's something that's very validating as well. So it's a tricky thing. At the end of the day. So, but yeah, I feel like if I'm not playing stuff, it's usually because like my work brain just won't switch off, and I'm just like refreshing the back end of Steam or some bullshit, or I'm reading like an email from like Simon Carlos, who's like a video game analyst, or I'm listening to a Chris Dring podcast, which I would do anyway, but it's like, oh, it's a business games podcast, but I'm just like listening to it, because that's what I do, and I would do that anyway, but it's also helps with work. So anyway, it's a whole thing that I'm trying to get better at, and hopefully will at some point. Nice. But yes, yeah.
Very good question, Luke. And yeah, it's important to understand, how do we do everything that we do? Because it's quite a lot.
Life's busy.
Our next email is from Wicked Gamer UK. Alan says, hi Bally and MBZ, hope you guys are well. Great episode of the podcast this week. So much good cover art out there, but I have a real soft spot for the amazing cover art from the Wii U 3DS era. There is just something about Nintendo's vibe for their games at that time. Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World are two of my favorites. I guess we must have talked about cover art. Can you remember this conversation?
Yeah, we did, like a couple episodes ago.
Right. Sorry, one more thing about having kids. Just messes with your memory. My memory but already wasn't the best. It's gotten even worse since having kids. Like, honestly, I forget so much about like what I was doing.
I feel like you've been remembering names better recently for some reason. Well,
maybe the kids have flipped my memory on its head. Names have gone up and then everything else has gone down. But
just disappeared.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So Alan says, anyways, pour one out for Skype, right? You mentioned you're looking around for easy to use platforms for podcasting. I use Riverside.fm for both my podcasts, and it's so user friendly. I'm not a techie person, but it's super simple. I don't work for them and I get no sponsorship, just like their platform. Good luck on your search and keep up the amazing work on the podcast. Also, have you guys ever thought about organizing a meetup for all the listeners? It would be cool to meet everyone. Wicked Gamer UK, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah,
should we do meetup quickly first?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to do a meetup one day. at the moment, I guess the first one would likely be in the UK and probably in London. But if that was something that enough UK people, I guess we could maybe do one in Edinburgh. But if there was enough UK people who are up for it, we should definitely do that. It's just a matter of finding time and making sure there's enough people who'd be up for it, make it worthwhile. Really,
exactly.
That's the key part.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it'd be a cool thing to do at some point.
Have you heard of Riverside.fm?
I've not. So it might be one that we start on our journey, Bally, as we look for our next home to find for recording stuff. So I've definitely seen some other platforms that other people have used. When I've been on some other shows, people have used different stuff. Obviously, Zoom is one that people use. There was one that someone used, which was like a kind of records it for you in a browser window, and it records the other person as well, which I need to learn a bit more about stuff like that. And maybe this is like that. Maybe Riverside.fm is like one of those. But yeah, there's a lot of options that we can look into that could potentially
We could
work.
always try doing a bonus bits in one of these, and then if it goes completely pear-shaped, we're only losing 15 minutes
Sure,
of valuable podcasting. But yeah, give it a go.
Yeah, we'll try some different stuff and see what works. Like, I like the idea of us trying a different service every week until we find one we like. But
I love the idea. I'm just so worried about the outcome.
It's just gonna it's gonna destroy.
Sorry, Bally's will just completely warp to this week. But we'll definitely try a different service next time.
Yeah. Like the podcast sounds like shit, but like we'll eventually get there. You know?
Thanks, Microsoft.
Thank you. What I will say definitively, I will never fucking use Teams in my life. Fuck that piece of shit. Never ever is Teams being used. Thank you. But no.
Yeah, we use Teams at work. It's not the best. It's okay. But yeah.
The thing that I always remember about Teams is like a few years ago, I was on a meeting in Teams with some developer, and my colleague Spencer was on the call as well, and Alex as well, and I was messing with like the settings in Microsoft Teams, and I was like, oh, you can just like change these backgrounds, and like I kept changing the background. I changed the background to like a Colosseum, so it looked like we were all sitting in like these Colosseum seats, and I screenshotted it and I sent it to those guys, and I could just see them like trying not to lose it and like laugh in the middle of the developer meeting. But it's one of those things I was like, this is so funny and stupid, why would you have this as a feature? So anyway, that's the best thing about Teams. You can make it look like you're sitting in like a stupid area.
You can be in like a what's the organization here? They're called like UNSC, like the United Nations.
Oh really?
Yeah, you can all be like in UN, and then there's like a Minecraft one as well. Like,
oh my god.
Yeah. Weird.
Well.
Anyway, our final email this time is from Declan P, who says, which Switch game has your favorite soundtrack? Maybe nostalgia hasn't hit yet, but I can't think of many Switch exclusives that have a real banger soundtrack. My favorite is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I think MBZ will back you up on that one.
Oh, I absolutely will. I think Ace Attorney...
There's that one song you don't want to talk about because of spoilers, but you love it. That's
yes,
what I remember.
Well done, Bally, for remembering that. Absolutely, yes. It's so good. That I think that entire soundtrack has just like an amazing vibe to it, and it's very of the time period. It feels like the choices in terms of musical instruments and instrumentation was built around the time period, which I always think is very good when games do that. But yeah, I think it's probably the best soundtrack of any of the Ace Attorney games, and that's saying quite a lot because a lot of these games have excellent soundtracks. Like the original is very iconic, and there's lots of themes that are kind of ingrained into meme culture, like all the what's it called? I can't remember the name, but when it goes to like that intense music in a court case, and like you have someone cornered, I think it's called Cornered, right? Where you basically have someone like basically dead to rights, and like the music just like ramps up. There's a version of that for like every Ace Attorney game, and all of them are just like really good. They always keep the same energy, but they all are distinct pieces in terms of the kind of like orchestration of them. So. That Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is definitely high up there on my list for best Switch soundtracks. But I think one thing that I've heard a few people say is, and kind of Declan mentions it here as well, is like the Switch era of music for Nintendo feels less impactful than maybe previous eras of Nintendo music.
I've heard that as well. I think I agree in terms of the like first party output. I definitely agree. I think that's also led by Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
Like, I think Tears of the Kingdom improved on this. There's like far more big, bombastic, impactful moments that they really go big. I'm thinking of like final boss fights and that kind of thing. Like they go
or like
big.
when you get into Ganon's castle, right, in Breath of the Wild, that track is really good, and it's ever present as you're in that space.
It's very much like small sections of these games, and 90% of the time you're either in the overworld or the depths or the sky, and it's very much little trills and little piano pieces just coming in and coming out very occasionally, and it's nowhere near the kind of bombast of the Great Sea or Hyrule Field from Ocarina and Wind Waker. Like they've definitely changed their tone massively, and I think it works for those games. But when you step back and say, what are my favorite Zelda soundtracks, it still makes me want to say Wind Waker more than say Breath of the Wild personally. Like it's just Dragon. Like when that music switches to Dragon Roost and you see the volcano and the dragon, is it Baloo that's in there, and that's.
I think it says a lot that one of the most memorable pieces of music from Breath of the Wild is when you enter the Rito village and you start hearing the Wind Waker stuff there.
Dragon Roost,
because obviously it's linked to it directly, and like there's the whole lineage there. But the fact that that's a standout track from Breath of the Wild says more about the impact of the Wind Waker soundtrack than it does about Breath of the Wild soundtrack.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's definitely true. I like a lot of stuff in Odyssey. I think Odyssey does have a very solid soundtrack.
I agree.
Again, like I feel like Galaxy is a bit more iconic in terms of like the main theme and stuff that you remember from it. Even like Sunshine has stuff that I remember, I think, more clearly than Odyssey soundtrack. And I'm just not sure why that is.
That whole like more subtle music, like we're talking about with Zelda, I think they completely copied that for Pikmin 4. Like I think that game, the music is a lot more subtle, whereas Pikmin 3, I think, had some really good tunes. And there's just something, I don't want to say it's nostalgia, but there's just a lot more memorable things about Pikmin 3. I like to think about, away from the music, that stuff like you could see a sped up version of your day and you'd see the Pikmin moving around the map like very fast. Like something small like that I really appreciated, and I associate with that nighttime music that you get on the overnight. I just don't have that same feeling about Pikmin 4. As much as I think Pikmin 4 is a stronger game, there's just stuff that links to the music and those musical moments that I find Pikmin 3 stronger. Yeah,
definitely. I think you also get like more iterative stuff as well. Like I think when Splatoon first came out on Wii U, it was like, whoa, never heard something like this.
It hit hard.
And then 2 and 3 are like, yeah, it's more of that. It's like it's really good still, but it's still more of that. I think Metroid Dread is the biggest offender of like, there's like nothing memorable about the soundtrack of Metroid Dread, which is a real,
even like the final boss fight and stuff like that. It's just,
it's a real shame, because I think Metroid has some of the most iconic like musical trills in all of Nintendo's franchises. So but yeah, are there any, Bally, that like stand out to you as like, oh, that was a really great soundtrack on Switch?
In terms of like exclusives, I'd have to go with Mario Odyssey. I think that's the exception to this rule that we're kind of following, where as much as I think Galaxy is stronger, I do think Odyssey has like New Donk City, the musical moment in New Donk City, with like Pauline and all that. Like I think that has memorable, impactful, incredible musical moments on top of like all the kingdoms. I think all have fantastic, unique tunes. That's probably my number one.
I think, I mean, wow, NBZ, what are you going to say? Guess what? Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has the best soundtrack on Switch, because of course it does. Like, I think the thing about Xenoblade is you could look at it and be like, oh, all those games sound similar. They don't sound similar at all, I would say. I think they have a through line, a musical identity that goes through all 3 games, but they are all very distinct in the way that they sound. I think the thing that makes 3 work musically is it is built around a musical instrument. Like the flute is at the core of the narrative of the game, and the flute being used as like a thing for like sending off the dead and like the rituals that come alongside it. The way that they weave that leitmotif of the flute throughout the whole soundtrack is just fantastic. And like there are so many kind of critical story moments that are tied to pieces of music that make that soundtrack sing. Like I think it's the one that took the longest to grow on me, but I think at the end of the day it might be my favorite. Like it's a really tremendous kind of collection of music, and that's not to mention the Future Redeemed soundtrack, which adds even more stuff and has, I think, maybe the greatest overworld theme of all time that I've ever heard in any game. Like, unbelievably good. So yeah, Xenoblade is top tier. I also think that Three Houses, like Fire Emblem Three Houses, is a pretty great soundtrack as well. That one definitely has a lot of memorable songs from it. God Shattering Star is one that people always point to, which is like the final mega boss fight one that a lot of people are a big fan of and often reference. But I think generally speaking, Three Houses is a pretty strong Fire Emblem soundtrack, so those stand out. But I think generally speaking, like, indie games on Switch were ones that had some of the most impact. Like, the three for me are Celeste, Hades, and Eastward. All three of those are like banger soundtracks for totally different reasons and have stuck with me very strongly throughout the entire generation. And yeah, I think Eastward is one of those where, like, not many people have heard it, but I think it has one of the best soundtracks of an independent game.
Well, if we're sliding away from exclusives, I have to talk about Octopath Traveler, both 1 and 2.
I mean, those are like, I guess they aren't exclusives anymore, but like they are intrinsically tied to the identity of the Switch.
Yeah, especially the first game for sure. Yeah,
I think the first game might be the best soundtrack on the platform, Xenoblade excluded, of course.
Okay, right.
yes.
It's just that amazing combination of metal and orchestra, and I mean, it has that in common with Xenoblade, I guess, but it's just that really powerful combination. And having played Octopath Traveler 2 a while ago now, I think 1 probably has the strongest soundtrack overall.
I agree. I think 1 is the strongest soundtrack. 2 is still really damn good.
2 is still incredible.
1 has the more memorable tracks that I can like still recall, which I think is a sign of like stuff that sticks with you. So yeah, I think that definitely is up there for me for sure.
And then I would still highlight Hollow Knight in indies. I think they're fantastic, and obviously the Ori games. And then Cuphead is incredible in its own right. And then one that just does, where the soundtrack is a really big deal and incorporates itself into the gameplay and is very memorable for that, I just want to shout out Ape Out.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good one for sure. It's definitely not one I think of in terms of, because my favorite game soundtracks tend to be ones that you listen to outside the game and work outside.
Yeah, this wouldn't work for that at all, would it? Yeah, because it's intrinsically tied to your inputs.
Yes, I tend to overlook games where the soundtrack is like very much built into kind of like the feel of the game and how it plays and everything. Which Ape Out certainly is.
Very quickly, 2 more indies I want to shout out. Highland Song, got to get those Scottish tunes in there. Absolutely love the soundtrack of that game. Yeah. And then Wargroove, I think, was a very, maybe the first game more than the second game, although I think both games were very strong again. Very good soundtracks.
I seem to recall Luigi's Mansion 3 having a pretty good soundtrack as well.
It was very good, actually. And I feel like they made a bigger deal of like unique boss soundtrack themes and that kind of thing. Like, I think it was just like, I think we described it as like Disney World the game, like it really goes for that wholeheartedly, and the music is a big part of that.
Yeah. Also, I didn't love the game, but I think it probably has the best Zelda music on Switch, Cadence of Hyrule. Obviously, like, remixes a bunch of Zelda songs, but of all the Zelda games on Switch, that's definitely, or I guess Echoes of Wisdom. Actually, we did talk a lot about the Echoes of Wisdom soundtrack.
I really like Echoes of Wisdom soundtrack. I'd probably rank it higher than Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
I agree.
If I had to,
yeah. I think it's more traditional in the way it's presented, right? Of like all the areas have their own themes and like it's consistent.
Especially the Zora quest was really memorable.
Yes, because they kind of build that in as well. Yeah. Like I think any time that a game builds musical instruments into the narrative and then uses that as part of the storytelling. I mean, Hades is the perfect example of this as well. It's like every time you enter Eurydice's room and she's just like singing there, like without question, every time I put my Switch down, I just let her sing the whole thing. Amazing. Like those vocal tracks are just stellar stuff. I can't wait for you to play Hades 2.
I can't wait. It's going to be like my Switch 2 game of the year. I can tell. God. It's going to be big.
These fucking songs that happen like in this game.
I'll admit not currently. When Early Access originally came out, I was listening a lot to the Rock Band one.
Yeah.
That song is very good.
there's two of them in fact, and they are both really fucking good. So those were definitely up there for me in terms of that. But I think it. Like we said, I definitely think there are some big hitters in here that are absent from this list because I feel like Nintendo kind of under-delivered on them in terms of the soundtrack and what was involved. Oh, actually, I might point out Pokemon Legends Arceus has quite a good soundtrack as well. It was very different for a Pokemon soundtrack, but I think it has a pretty good identity to it, and like I like the vibe it gets across. Like it has that sense of a more ancient world, which I thought was very good and fit that setting very well. And then I probably take Sword and Shield over Scarlet and Violet in terms of the music from those games. The wolf song, like the howling wolf song, I remember quite vividly. So there's I think Sword and Shield actually has one of the better Pokemon soundtracks. But I would like to see some of the big hitters do a little bit better in terms of their soundtracks in the next generation. So here's looking at you, Metro Prime 4, sort it out. Better come with some banging tunes, you know. I'm very interested in Donkey Kong Bonanza. I hope that has a great soundtrack.
Yes, that's a great shout, yeah.
Because I think you can do some very cool stuff with that.
It will definitely have something New Donk City-esque Pauline celebration of its history. I really hope so. And if it could celebrate the Donkey Kong Country games soundtracks in some way, that would be amazing because those are through the roof, especially Tropical Freeze.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I guess the... cheat, it's not really cheat because it's a new game to a lot of people, but Live Alive, like Mega.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Super Smash Brothers.
Okay, yeah, I guess that is the other big cheat. But Live Alive, the remake of Live Alive, Megalomania, just like maybe the best piece of music on Switch. Just full stop. That song is so good. The fact that it plays for every boss fight is like hell yes, because you're just excited to hear it every time.
They know how good it is. They don't mind.
They know it. Yeah, they're like, we're not gonna have individual boss tracks. You're just gonna have this for every single one because it's that fucking good. So, it's definitely did its work there, which is great. Lovely. Any others, Bally? We've pretty much covered.
That's everything this time. But like I said at the top of the segment, if you want to email the show, please email ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. And like I said, there's a channel in our Discord server. Go pop an email, a question over there.
Yes, absolutely. Please go do that. You can obviously find the show in various places. You can support us if you would so wish to on patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, where you can get bonus episodes and fun things. Bally would like to thank some of our supporters.
Yes, thank you very much to all of our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK Alan, Turtle, Orange Thunder, and Ali T. Thank you so much for your support. Ali T left some message on Discord that
he did. Yeah, he was chiming in about frame rates, and he
you
messaged me and you were like, this is Ali T because it's a terrible joke. That was very funny to me. Anyway, shout out to Ali T. For I don't know, maybe he does know what frame rate is. We'll never know.
We'll never know. Maybe you want to tell us this time, Ali.
Yeah, he's just
might
jesting
insert another
about
awful joke. Who knows?
Yeah,
we shall see. But thank you also to all our other patrons. We really appreciate all the support you give the show. We had a nice episode on this non-tender life. We talked a bit about South of Midnight, Assassin's Creed, and Monster Hunter. I can't remember the surnames. The
Wilds, Bally,
Wilds. Titles. Yeah. Wilds, and then Assassin's Creed is
Shadows.
That's the one. There we go.
There's Bally's decaying memory coming in for show. Yes, I'll. I would like to talk a bit more about Monster Hunter on the main show. I might play some Rise actually.
Nice.
So
let's do that.
Cool. You can obviously find the show in various places on the internet. We're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher. You can download us on any podcasting app that exists out there, and you can rate and review us on there as well if you would be so kind. You can find us on socials on Blue Sky. I'm NBZ, so you can find me there. Bally, where can they find you?
I am at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN 91, and that's on Blue Sky. And I don't really use X that much anymore.
We don't call it X. It's called Twitter.
I can't believe I said X. Twitter.
Yeah. Go find us on there. At TNL Podcast is the podcast account as well, so you can follow us there as well. I think that's the main stuff. That's it. That's the show. That's the end of it. It's the final time, Bally. We're going to sign off here from Skype.
It's a sad time.
Sad time indeed. Many memories associated with Skype. Lots of good times. Lots of bad times as well when it never wanted to work for us. But it eventually just did. And I feel like in the last like 7-8 years, there's been zero issues with Skype. Like we did used to have some funky stuff. But
yeah, we're a lot fewer mistakes than like previously, but yeah, there's been hardly any. And thank you very much, Skype and Microsoft.
Yeah,
it's
we thank you for your service, and we wish you well in the afterlife. And maybe one day Microsoft will decide to revive you, and then we can come back and use you again. But until that day, goodbye to Skype and goodbye to all of you. Goodbye. The musical interlude used on today's show was The Path for Us All from Nine Souls. Copyright Red Candle Games 2024.